So let's jump right into a little Thursday night football here, guys. And
Yeah.
We're going to end the show at pickup lines as we do. Another one of Jay's ideas, I think, once upon a time.
Yep.
So,
Ideas merchant.
Let's get into the Roto World player news. For all your player news, go to NBCSports.com. A Thursday night football matchup that was headlined by Javonte Williams, 14 carries, 88 yards. Most importantly, Matthew, he gets the 2 touchdowns. We discussed that this game didn't have a ton of fantasy-relevant players, but Javonte Williams had a big night.
He certainly did. I mean, 17 total touches here, over 100 total yards from scrimmage. Second best fantasy game of his career, right? And his third game this season with multiple go-to-go rushing attempts. I think that's important here. He had 4 different red zone rushing attempts in this game. That's a season high. He's also averaging 4.2 targets per game, which is 4th most among running backs. I think the thought at the beginning of the season was, well, he's going to be the between the tackles guy. Julian McLaughlin will be in the passing game, but no, they're just using Javonte Williams now on all 3 downs. Audric Estime, your guy, comes back, bad fumble, gets an opportunity. So my point is that even though we all like Audric Estime, I think
he's third on the depth chart.
He's third on the depth chart, and it's going to be a while before he earns some playing time back, especially because, give credit where credit's due, Jay, Javonte Williams looked pretty good in a game in which not much else did.
He did. He looked explosive. He looked powerful. What I don't know how to put in context is I can't remember a team that was worse at tackling than these Saints. It's really an absolute mess. Like what happened on the Godwin touchdown last week. They couldn't tackle the Chiefs. I just don't understand. Like this is a veteran team that had an awesome defense last year. Everyone just got old at the same time, and they're missing some bodies at the moment. But that is the difficult thing where they could have tackled Javonte Williams a lot earlier on some of these plays, and they didn't. But I think the main thing with Javonte and what is projectable going forward is just the usage. Like he had effectively 3 times as many carries as anyone else on the team at the running back position.
I think Sean Payton just trying to find some kind of rhythm in this offense here. I wonder, though, is he a sell high? So next week they're home to Carolina. You love that matchup. They've got 10 days now to prepare for a home game against the Panthers. But after that, at Baltimore, at Kansas City, home to Atlanta. You don't love any of those matches. And so I wonder if you sit here and you say, like, we just said, this was the second best game of his career. Like, how much more do you think you're going to get out of Javonte Williams here? Again, we don't have a ton of confidence in this offense. You see the upcoming schedule here. So after that Falcons game I mentioned, at Raiders, okay, that's a good matchup. But then home to the Browns. That's on Monday Night Football. Sorry, ESPN. And then you got a bye week. Colts is a good matchup, but the fantasy playoffs at the Chargers, at the Bengals, home to the Chiefs, that's not great either. So I don't know, like kind of feels like a worse lineup the rest of the way. There's a couple of good matchups in there, but for the most part, bunch of games where you're not feeling super confident about Javonte Williams. So I wouldn't just sell him for anything, but like off of this game, if you get a decent offer, I might think about it because, again, traditionally Sean Payton has liked to use multiple running backs. He hasn't recently because Javonte Williams has been the one good guy he's got there, and they're trying to find their way on offense, but I don't fully trust it from a Payton perspective or the matchup.
Well, at what point do teams make Bo Nix throw the ball, right?
Right.
Do you just sell out to – if Javonte Williams is your calling card of your offense, okay, we're going to load the box and make Bo Nix throw, which he's literally not doing, Jay.
But Bo Nix was atrocious. He was atrocious last night. It was one of the worst quarterback performances you'll ever see for someone who had like the relative respectability of his stat line, and he had the rushing, and they won the game by 23 points, etc. But he seems that his mechanics are just broken, Connor. He is doing something that you just don't see from many quarterbacks where he's drifting back out of the pocket before the pressure is remotely close. It just seems like his footwork is way off. The comical miss between the 2 receivers where he overthrew and underthrew one at the same time. The pick to Tyrann Mathieu that we were talking about where it was so bad that Tyrann Mathieu didn't even realize what was happening. Like, it was just a mess across the board. Now, he has the rushing, and that's always going to raise his floor from a fantasy perspective. And to be fair, from an NFL perspective as well, it's very useful that he can do this on the ground, but through the air, it's just it's a mess.
And somehow Matthew ends up with 14 fantasy points. It's amazing.
It's absolutely ridiculous. His 75 rushing yards. I mean, by the way, his rushing prop on DraftKings last night, I think I got it at 25.5. So he blows past that and triple. And while it's so fascinating because Bo Nix is not, quote, good at football so far, he has just not been great. But he's putting up fantasy points because of the rushing. He's now had back-to-back games with at least 60 rushing yards. He's averaging 36 rushing yards per game on the season. And since week 3, guys, he's the 14th best quarterback in fantasy on a points per game basis. He's had at least 19 fantasy points in 3 of the 5 games over that stretch. To give you a comparison, since week 3, here's some of the fantasy quarterbacks. I'm just going to show it to you right here, right? Okay, so that first one right there, these are 3 quarterbacks since week 3 on a points per game basis because they all haven't played the same number of games. So number 14, the first one, they're averaging 16.8. That's Bo Nix. Okay? Any guesses as to who the next 2 guys are?
Do you have any numbers for what they've done? Like
16.6 and 16.4. You see it right there on your screen.
Yeah. I wasn't actually listening on the pre-call when we went through who these names actually are. So is one of them Patrick Mahomes?
One of them is not Patrick Mahomes.
I have them, so I won't answer.
One of them is not Patrick Mahomes. I will tell you, I will reveal to you right now that averaging more fantasy points per game since week 3, Bo Nix is averaging more fantasy points per game since week 3 than Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts. Just to give you on the other side of this, C.J. Stroud is averaging 16.9. Geno's averaging 17 points per game. And there's Bo Nix at 16.8. I got a question for you. Again, and I will say this. I don't think he's good at football, but I will say 2 things that I do think he is good at. I do think this rushing is sustainable, and I think he keeps this job. I mean,
for sure.
They're not going to anyone else. Sorry, Zach Wilson. They're not going to anyone else.
Active.
Right, exactly. That's my point. Like, it's Bo Nix's job. So I asked to you, my fine gentleman here. He's not throwing touchdowns, but he is running, and he's going to keep the job. Rest of the season, who would you rather have, Bo Nix or Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence, reluctantly, but it's very close.
Fantasy-wise, purely from a fantasy perspective.
Yes.
I'd still go with Trevor Lawrence. I'm worried about the Bo Nix, like week 1 Bo Nix coming back, where it's can we get to the 50-yard line?
Okay, fine. Fantasy-wise, Bo Nix or Daniel Jones?
I might take Bo.
I would take Bo Nix because
coming back could help.
I don't think Daniel Jones is finishing the season because of the injury guarantee stuff.
Rest of the season, Bo Nix or Justin Herbert?
I would take her. I think Herbert's time is coming now.
Yeah, I think Herbert as well.
Fine. Bo Nix or Drake May?
Here's why I'll say May, not to just always take the other guy. New England's going to be getting blown out at times. Denver's defense is so good. Yeah. Bo Nix is going to just turn around and hand the ball to whoever's behind.
They dominated last night. He finishes with 14.1 fantasy points.
It's helpful in the league of assholes.
That's fine, yes. Yeah, no. Well, this is all 2 quarterback league stuff.
He's had 5 games with 25-plus rushing yards. The one thing I will say for Bo Nix, as bad as he's looked, he doesn't take sacks. Which is the one
and he didn't at Oregon. I think he took 6 sacks each of the last 2 years.
That is a genuine skill which people don't focus about enough. That's why people don't weight that enough. Like Joe Burrow earlier in his career took way too many sacks. Bo Nix is a lot worse than Joe Burrow, but still, that is a good thing. Like last night, he had an 83 QBR, which would rank number 1 in the entire NFL above Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. And the big reason for that is that he avoided sacks. He took no sacks. He had no interceptions, even though he should have had interceptions. So his ability to avoid negative plays has been a saving grace, but he's going to have more picks. But the thing is like he should be in throw scripts more.
He'll also have more touchdown passes. Like he's not going to ever light it up, but he's not going to have a ton of games where they score over 30 and he doesn't have a touchdown pass.
They're going to have to start throwing at some point.
They're going to have to start throwing at some point. Last one here, Bo Nix or Russell Wilson?
Bo Nix. I would actually take Bo Nix.
Same. We have talked about this, that there's the concern that you could have half a game of Russell Wilson at some point, and that'll sink your fantasy week.
Also, what is Russell Wilson's ceiling? He doesn't run anymore, and he has 1 receiver who the team doesn't seem to like.
I was going to say, does he have 1 receiver?
Yeah, I'm in a. I'll completely cop to this, and so I'm in. All of us are in this thing called Scott Fish Bowl, which is a huge industry-wide charity tournament that a lot of people in the fantasy industry and that fans do as well. Like 4,000 people play in this big fantasy football league. It's drafts during the summer, and it's all to raise money for FantasyCares.org, which is a great organization. Shout out to my friend Scott Fish. Okay, it's a crazy deep league where there's no trades, right? So it's like 25-man rosters, and you can't make any trades, and there's no one on the waiver wire. And so it's super flex league. It's got weird scoring too. But after week 2, Bo Nix is my 3rd quarterback. And I dropped Bo Nix because I saw those first two games. I was just like, I'm done. And I dropped Bo Nix to pick up Andy Dalton when Andy Dalton was named the starter because I was just like, you know what? I think Andy Dalton's going to be better over the rest of the season fantasy-wise than Bo Nix. And I was looking like a genius that first week. When
that move was fine, though.
I think the move was fine. And I think ultimately it's probably borderline close. And my 2 quarterbacks in that league are Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels. So my 3rd isn't playing unless it's a bye week or somebody gets hurt. So I'm good. I'm in second place in that league. No big deal. Just saying. And like 5 points out of first place.
Yeah, it's great to be second.
Yeah. Well, all these people, they all donated a charity place specifically in a league with me. So it's a bunch of Matthew Berry, fans that are like, they're all up in my business.
They hate you and want to beat you.
Either
you didn't
way,
think of that side.
Entirely possible, by the way. I mean, I'm currently in a league like that where everyone in the league hates me and wants to beat me. It's called the League of Assholes. But what I will say is that either way, whether you're in the League of Assholes or you're in my Scott Fishbowl League, everyone there is aware of me, wants to beat me, and knows all of my rankings. And even if they agree or disagree with it, they know how I think. So it's
It's how I outbid you by $2 on every player on the waiver wire.
Exactly, like this jerk.
My analytics department has been on fire.
On
this year.
fire.
Yes. What fab should we do? Well, we've run the numbers. Exactly $11 because Barry will bet and
10.
9.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, you're a sneaky bastard.
I know.
Yeah.
Another news, Troy Franklin appears.
Maybe overpay for Juju Smith-Schuster, who showed up on the injury report this week. Who just yesterday he showed up on the injury report.
He doesn't get hurt usually.
I know, it's weird.
He hasn't had a
usually,
chronic knee condition
usually a
for
modicum
7
of
years.
health. Well, I felt like once you removed your knees, they can't get hurt anymore.
That's a good point.
True.
Yeah, that's
I
very
just
true.
felt like he's out there, on just pure cartilage and jelly.
Yes.
Like
Brandon Roy.
Right, exactly.
Wow. Troy Franklin catches 5 of 6 targets for 50 yards in a game, Matthew, that Cortland Sutton was on a milk carton.
I mean,
he had 0 points.
Second straight game with at least double-digit fantasy points here. 69% route participation over the last 2 weeks. Season high 24% target share for Troy Franklin. Obviously, there's a connection going back to college between Franklin and Bo Nix. Having said all that, it doesn't feel like a great offense. I just don't feel like he's getting consistent enough work. I guess if you're sort of pointing your finger in the air and seeing which way the wind blows, and I'm desperate, give me a Broncos wide receiver. I suppose Troy Franklin can be on your radar, but he slid in the draft, Connor, and I felt like that was probably on purpose. I guess not on purpose. I feel like that wasn't a huge mistake that he slid that much, and it also feels like this offense is a mess.
Yeah, he was sub 180 pounds at the combine and didn't run in the 4.3s, and that was kind of the sell with Troy Franklin was that, hey, he's really skinny, really light, but he can fly like the wind. And I still think he's fast. I still like the player a lot. I like this connection specifically, but it wasn't – he went from a guy that, hey, could he be a day 2 guy? And the reasons he fell were justified. Right. I think the Broncos went into this year thinking hey, we're going to kind of get him ready for year 2, 3, and 4, and now they're looking around you know what kind of hit the fan. Troy Franklin's got to be out there. So I don't think this offense is going to run through him at any point.
The good news is he played the second most snaps last night of any wide receiver. The bad news is it was basically 50% of the snaps, and this offense just doesn't seem to have a ceiling. Now, the offensive line with the Broncos, I think, is a kind of quiet strength of the team. And they're
overachieving.
They're keeping Bo Nix clean in the pocket, and Nix is a part of that as well. But it just doesn't seem like there's much ceiling, given that the one guy who is out there every snap, Cortland Sutton, isn't doing anything either.
Yeah, and the Saints are a disaster. The Saints are an unmitigated disaster, and I just wonder, in a real game, again, Broncos play Carolina next week, so they'll probably look again. But, after Carolina, at Baltimore, at Kansas City, home to Atlanta, that stretch of 3 games, that's a real test.
They probably are the underdog in all 3.
I would
Atlanta
think so.
will be interesting, but Baltimore and Kansas City should not be.
Yeah, 100%. Both those games on the road as well.
Exactly.
Good luck there.
But on the Saints side.
But my point is the Saints are an unmitigated disaster, and so I don't know how much we can take away from the Broncos' point of view because the Broncos constantly got the ball in good field position. They were on the field quite a bit. They dominated time possession because the Saints couldn't generate any sort of drive in this one as well. Connor, I can't believe Jake Haener wouldn't be better than Spencer Rattler looked awful last night.
This feels clearly like a situation that they want to see what they have in the rookie, while Haener has a much better floor. And I'm not just saying that because of the garbage time touchdown that absolutely burned my under 37 points. I'm not angry about it.
That was the worst.
It's just
absurd.
The worst,
But so stupid because Rattler's so awful that he gives up the pick 6/fumble kind of thing, which gets you within 1, and you're just like, what? All right, well, like, if you wouldn't have pulled him before then don't pull him. But now you pull him? Right. Like, he should have been pulled at the second half.
He was limping around out there.
It's awful.
Yeah, it was
really
awful.
Bad.
Also, not a great sign for the Bucs defense that they gave up 27 points to Spencer Rattler after giving up 1 million points to the Falcons. Like, that's
the
a bad
Bucs defense from top to bottom has legitimate issues. They have no pass rush. The secondary's injured.
And Baker had, like, I think 3 turnovers in that game, too. So, like, I know.
Yeah, he had 3 interceptions. Also, that just speaks to the ills of the Saints defense at the moment, which came in and looked like a really good unit through 2 weeks and was a really good unit last year. They got 33 points to Bo Nix. They gave up 51 points to Baker Mayfield in a game where he threw 3 interceptions in 1 quarter. Like, it's an absolute catastrophe at the moment. Patrick Mahomes, with no receivers whatsoever, easily could have had 400 passing yards and 2 touchdowns and no picks in that game if he'd gotten a bit lucky on pass interference calls against with Xavier Worthy in the mix. So that's just, the Saints are, they're a catastrophe at the moment, which is like, it's a long fall for growth. This team looked fantastic.
After 2 weeks, we were talking about could the Saints be playing a home game in the Super Bowl? And now we're like, does Dennis Allen keep his job 3 more weeks?
Week 8, yeah, right. Clint Kubiak was going to be the hottest name on the head coaching market, and to be fair, Clint Kubiak, the bottom is really falling out.
They've lost a lot of players to injury.
They're all their players. I mean, it's insane. But it makes you wonder how bad the Cowboys might be. That's what I keep thinking of. I'm sorry.
That loss looks
That's all I
worse
can think
and worse.
of.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well, the good news is the next game the Cowboys play the Niners in San Francisco on Sunday Night Football. They always do well in that situation.
Oh, yeah. What could go wrong?
So Cedric Wilson ends up the winner here. He does catch 6 of 7 targets for 57 yards and that awful touchdown. There's not really much to take away. Nice job, Jay. Foster Moreau gets your over 10.5 receiving yards bet right out of the way. You were the luckiest man in America. You got to watch your bet cash within the first 5 minutes, and then you can go on and enjoy the rest of your life. And put the kids to bed. And
over some baseball, watch some Rangers hockey, and get beat up on the Red Wings again.
Bub Means got some looks. He got the 5 targets, but did not catch the over 3.5 receptions that I thought he would. He had a bad drop as well.
You got burned badly as well.
I did. Unbelievable. I also, by the way, I didn't think Spencer Rattler would be that bad.
No.
He was awful.
Well, it was a 3-point line or whatever. It wasn't supposed to. It wasn't supposed to happen like this.
Yeah. And yet it did. That's why they play the games.
To put a bow on this game, there was a celebrity at this game, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's
celebrity
right.
we know quite well. Let's take a look who showed up there.
Yeah, on Drew Brees night.
Dome. Oh, Lawrence Jackson Jr. VIP, Lawrence. He's practically at the pylon.
Who let this happen?
Look at Lawrence.
Look at him licking his lips.
Yeah, he's just living his best life.
Oh my God.
And there is Lawrence with the very popular Silk the Shocker of No Limit.
Yeah.
So Lawrence is hanging out with the big people.
He is one of them. No, I guess Lawrence is now part of the entourage. Lawrence is an entourage.
You think he comes
Lawrence
back to
is
this
like
desk?
E. Lawrence, he's like E or
where is he amongst
Turtle.
the 4? He's definitely not the turtle. He can't be the turtle.
He's not Turtle. He's not E.
He's Johnny Drama.
He's Johnny Drama.
There we go.
You know what that is? Larry Drama.
Yes.
Lawrence's new nickname is Larry Drama.
I like that. It fits very well with his persona.
Yeah. Well, the last time Lawrence was on the road to go to a football game, he was in Pittsburgh, the casino with me and George Savarikas drinking White Claws. And so now he's upgraded to Drew Brees & Co. So well done for Lawrence. The only way is up.
Well done. So, God bless. Anyway, Larry Danger. Done.
There we go.
Done and done.
So that puts a bow on.
Better than Mouse Jackson, which was the last one. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.